Hello. I'm so excited right now. Welcome to a remix of the Anna Hummel Show / Kevin's Law. We got Kevin Hazlett in the house. Kevin!
What's up?
So good to see you.
Yeah, it's, I realized, because I've been called out by people on different social media, that I did not fulfill my promise of a Kevin's Law August show, and we have somehow slip-slided into November.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel, not say mildly bad about it, because that sounds sarcastic, but I feel, I just feel very, I need to get back at it. It's all about habits. So
Right. How do you feel about this? John Cosica, $49.99.
Wow.
Woo! Thank you, Johnny K.
So I was at a pumpkin carving last Saturday night.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, and it was at my wife's friend's house. And I know the folks, nice people, but I know she knows them better than I do. And, of the folks there were probably, say, 50 or 60 people there.
Okay.
And we're sitting at a table, and one of the women comes up, and you never know. You know how you walk in a room, like you, Anna, are famous, and you will.
I am.
You are famous. I want to be clear that you are.
Thank you. I'm a celebrity.
You are a celebrity.
Yes.
I don't know how many lists you are, and I don't know how far it goes. I consider myself probably a Z-list celebrity. Certainly, as long as you make the alphabet, you're okay. So,
Right.
top 26. So,
Okay.
So I'm at this event, and my wife's carving pumpkins because I'm not the artistic one. And she does a cool thing, and I'll text you a photo in a second, which is pretty cool. But we're doing that, and this lady at the end goes, hey, I've not met you, but...
Your face is on the scoozy?
No, she didn't do that. That's an Anna Hummel thing.
That's happened to me.
I know, but
Like I'm at this random party, I see Kevin's face all over the place.
You're like, what's up with this? He's stalking
like, what the
me.
hell?
So I'm there, and she goes, hey, I just want to say, when are you going to get back? And I'm like going, I'm sorry, because I just met her. Get back what? She goes, well, I don't know how to say this, but my husband's a big fanboy. I go, what are you? It wasn't even. I wasn't. No one said radio.
And she said fanboy.
She used the word fanboy, which to me sounds. I mean, that to me, I can't, I don't want to say non-binary. I don't want to get in that word, but I was like the word. I understand the word. I understood what it meant. I was uncomfortable with that usage of the word.
Sure.
And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, well, he lives in Kevin Law. And I go, oh, okay. She goes, he never missed one. I go, really? And I'm like, and she's, I don't know, early 60s.
Okay.
So it's like, she goes, oh, yeah. And she goes, we're into crypto because of you. And she goes, and we bought a rental house. I'm like, well, I'm like, what? But so I had to unpack it a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh. And my wife goes, she goes to you need to calm down because the door frame's he's not going to be able to leave this house. So, but it was great. But it was like one of those things where like, yeah, he wants to know when it's coming back. So I felt like the universe was leaning in and kind of nudging me to kind of do it again.
I felt like I was kind of pushing you.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Was I being annoying?
No. Anna, you trust me. I deal with annoying people every day.
Okay.
And I have annoying people in my life. You're not one of those. You're not in the top 100.
I appreciate that. But when you're called annoying and irritating every day of your life,
but you're not.
By people who work here.
Well, no, and I get that. Can
I've lost insight into. I'm like, is this annoying? Am I, because I wanted to gently nudge, but not to the point where I'm like being obnoxious or pushy.
No, you're.
It's a fine line.
No, you're not.
Okay,
you're not.
Thank you. I appreciate.
You're not. And I'm also at some point I want to open up so I know how to click on the right chat here so I can respond to these people.
Yeah. You want me to show you really quick?
Yeah. Can you just real quick so I can respond and I'll talk in between. But I also want to. I know as I was walking in, we're talking about the Vietnam War, and I know there's a lot for you to talk about. Oh, look, that's a great glamour shot right there. Look at that. Here we go. All right, no audio. What are we talking about?
Make a note.
Ready for notes? Yeah, Joe's.
If you want to talk to Kevin, he's on the Rumble right now. So
okay, good.
Because we're on 4 different platforms right now.
Okay, I can't keep track of it.
You're right.
But anyway, so there is, and I talked to Rock a little bit about doing it too, about the reincarnation of Kevin's Law. So we'll try to get it done. So
even if we can't do it weekly, maybe even like quarterly or monthly would be great. I really miss it, truly. I really do.
Well, It's cathartic for me because I can kind of say things I normally wouldn't say to, talk about. I mean, and of course, some of the stuff I talk about is, as my wife says, is cringy. But, she's like, why are you talking about that? And I'm like going, well, it's just on my mind.
Cringy in what way? Like it's not
she's like, why
socially acceptable to...
No, like you're telling stories that you don't need to talk about.
Oh.
Like, why are you talking about those stories? I'm like, well, it's real, it's all accurate. But you have to share it with the world.
Oh, I see. Okay. Just personal stuff.
And I'm like, well, okay, I understand. And because she's a lot more less, out there than I am. But I'm like, whatever. So I'm not to the point I'm saying I'm at the I don't care point in my life, but I'm near the I don't care.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
It does. You said you were going to say something about the war. We were talking about. We had a little discussion with Bubba, who seems to think he's in a different generation than you.
I mean, even though like we spelled it out, and I use hand signals, and I went down, I used animal characters to explain it to him. I did some math and hieroglyphics to get there, and so this is. I don't know how I could break it down any more than he did, but he still didn't get it. So the backstory. We're walking in, and Bubba goes, he's immediately shot out about the Vietnam War. We never should have been there. And
right. This is right after the main show, by the way, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali was right, and this, that, and the other. And he's like, hey, how old are you? I said, well, I just turned 61. And he goes, well, did you get drafted? I'm like, no.
He made a comparison to his father.
He goes like, my father's drafted. And I go, and Anna goes like, you're literally 3 years, 8 months younger than him, Bubba. And he goes, and he goes, yeah. So anyway, were you drafted? We're like, and of course I looked at him and I go, were you drafted? No, I was way too young. I go,
right.
So, so I don't think it still like resonated with him.
No, I don't think so. And then he was just like, I gotta go. And then just like a hurricane, he was in, he was out.
I don't know.
Or a tornado, rather. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. A tornado. It's something going on. Certainly a Cat 1.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, there's every once in a while, going back to what I said earlier about the, because every once in a while, there's like a topic in my head because I was used to like having a topic and then like saving it to go, oh, let's talk about it on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been saving it
for 2 years now.
Well, I put it in my notes, and like I have nowhere to go. So it's like I'm not saying it's like I'm a backed up colon, but I feel like it's all this is impacted information that I wanted to get out. I'm like,
it was your outlet to talk about stuff that was important to you in that week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In that given time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good. So I feel like if when jump around, but you ever listen to audiobooks or you listen to like podcasts?
Yeah, I like to watch podcasts for some reason. When I see someone talking, it helps with my memory.
And what speed do you listen to them
on? What speed?
Yes.
Regular speed? What do you mean?
So my oldest listens a big podcaster and listens to all the time. But he's on, is it 175 or 15? So like all of my podcasts, he switched it on and I've never got it unswitched. So everything I listen to, if I'm walking or running or biking or whatever I'm doing, I'm listening on like 175 speed. So it's like, Sonia, you want to take a break? Cold plunge. Take a cold plunge. So like it's all, yeah. So
no. I need to hear people's saying words.
I'm packing like I'm black. Okay, I'll move my mic around. Sorry, I'm doing it the wrong way. I don't know how I'm gonna get the mic right. How was that? I'm trying to pack into my podcast. I'm trying to get like it's a 2-hour podcast and I do it like 26 minutes.
Okay, that's a bit.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but I wouldn't feel comfortable learning that way. I don't think I can't like relax if it sounds like it's they're trying to shove information and cram it into my brain.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
I'm okay with it.
That's fair.
But gosh, I just there's so much I want to say. But I know, but I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hijack your show. So
this is our show today.
I apologize. I just I'm gonna sit on my hands. I'm trying not to do. So
Kevin, all I do on the show is talk to myself. People are very happy to hear another voice, and especially that it's you. So please.
So I was out somewhere, and I just want to talk about the obvious. So I was somewhere, and it was at the pumpkin thing, which you missed, and I understand, no big deal. But We had no big deal. But we had like, no, seriously, it's no big deal. You know that,
right. Yes.
That's not some sort of slight. I hope you know that. But when it's a slight for me, it's a little more obvious and it's a little more sarcastic and more snarky.
Yeah.
Snarky on a scale of 9 to 10. But so we had almost 2,000 people this year.
Incredible.
It was really, really,
we
really
posted the video that you sent me.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Do you like that look?
Absolutely. Well, it was like was it a GoPro on a stick or something?
No, it's my new toy. It's an i360.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Is it i360?
I don't know.
It's a really cool. I took it all through Europe with me.
Ooh.
And it really gets some great photos. I have it on here. I think it's 360. I'll tell you the name of it. And if you guys at home want to take some really cool stuff, it's called Insta, INSTA 360. Insta 360. Guys, go check this out. It's a very cool thing called Insta 360. It's like a GoPro on steroids. You put it on a selfie stick. I know that sounds, I can't say the word gay. I guess we use the word, it sounds, right? I can't say that, right?
I thought you were going to say something like a boomer or something, but you went in a different direction.
Yeah. But I mean, it sounds
like lame. You mean lame?
Yeah, I guess.
Any word would have been better than that one.
I know I can't say that, but it's an Insta 360, and it's but with a selfie stick, which sounds boring. But it takes these photos that makes it look like you've got a drone following you.
Yeah, that was the impression that I got.
But it's really like Joe, you know what I'm talking about. It looks great. It's just so cool. So if you're looking for that cool thing, fishing, outdoor, skiing, anything that's active, it's awesome. But I put it at our deal, and it looks like it's like looking down on you, and it looks really cool. So about 2,000 people. But my point is, and I wanted to come on, I didn't have time. I can't say how humbled I am by the number of Bubba Army people that showed up to help.
And I know there were a lot of them.
I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. They come every year. It is so awesome. They just jump in. I mean, they're there at like 9 in the morning till like 5 when it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so cool. And they're just helping people. I think we passed out 750 pumpkins this year, which was more we've done before. They just get it done. And it's so much fun. So I want to do, and I got to remember this, I want to do a thing this next year for the people that come in, do something on that Friday night before.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where I'll do we'll go some restaurant, I'll buy everybody food. So they come in, the night before, and then have like a big, make it like a fun event. You know what I'm saying?
Like a feast beforehand.
Yeah, like we're just to get together.
That's very sweet.
No, but it's no big deal. But just, to sit and talk and tell stories and stuff and get ready, and pregame for the game.
Oh, I like that.
Don't you think it'd be kind of cool?
That would be really fun. And I am sorry that I missed it.
No, that's not.
I feel
fine.
the need to explain myself.
Go ahead.
So I was going to see my dad's first cousin.
Right.
And then it was the day after Bubba had told us he had COVID. And
Right.
the next day I woke up not feeling very good. So I
It was
tested.
in your head.
I wasn't sure if it was psychosomatic or not. And I honestly couldn't tell. That's why I didn't test Friday night, because I started to feel kind of weird. But I thought perhaps it is in my head. Waited till Saturday, was not feeling great. Tested. It was negative, but decided to stay home anyways. So
Gotcha.
I saw my dad's cousin on Sunday instead. But so I do apologize.
Do you? I know you're probably. Do you care if you have COVID anymore? I mean, walking around outside?
I care to the extent that I feel like other people would want to know if I had it. Like I would feel kind of bad because I know that there's still a stigma, even though there's coronaviruses and you can have the sniffles, but the sniffles don't exist anymore. Now it's like, God forbid, you cough a little too much, you have COVID, and people still freak out. So I feel the need to like somewhat quarantine, like somewhat appropriately quarantine if I am sick. And I just think it's a polite thing to do if you're not feeling well, even if you don't have COVID, stay home.
No, I get that. But do you feel like the average person right now is like going like, screw it?
Yeah, everyone's in F it mode, I think.
They're just like, listen, I'm not going to test because I don't want to know, because I don't want to be the guy that has it. I'd rather not know and go out.
Yes. Yeah. The plausible deniability, like, well, I didn't know. You could always say that.
But at some point, don't we have to move past this?
Yeah. I'm all
way
about
past it.
Yeah, but not past the point where we don't shout out Brian Philly $20. Whoop, whoop. Sorry.
So yes, we got to do it, Kevin's Law. We got to figure it out and get it working. I'd like to do it at my studio. Do you have someone that could help us make it work, or would that be a pain for you?
You mean to set stuff up or
to do it over there?
I think that would be fine, especially because I don't know if you know, but I'm in that neck of the woods now.
See, that'd be easier for you?
I'm probably about 7 minutes away from your compound.
So that would be nice.
Yes, that would be much easier, actually.
And no slight against Bubba at all, but I mean, my studio from a lighting standpoint is much better. And I think
because there is light. Does it look like Times Square in there? Or
no. Remember, I can make it look. I mean,
professional.
I can make it look however we want it to look. I mean,
Yeah.
I can make it look however we want to do. But I mean, we could put us at the. It's just a smaller. We don't have the room we have here, and I don't have a bar. But
or a remnants of a stripper pole.
I don't have any of those.
Shower.
Or the shower. I don't have that. Those accoutrements to make it better. Yes. No, I don't have those. But so okay, I've got Okay, I'll get with you. We'll figure out maybe how we could do it. If we can make it easy, so it's a plug and play, we come up and do it, I think that would work. Don't you think?
Yes.
Okay.
I would definitely be open to that. I'll clear with Bubba. I think it'll be fine, but that would
I don't think he would care.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And it would actually be much easier for me to get there than here. So
I think we do that and do okay, we'll figure out how to do it. Okay, that'll be it. Done.
Did you want to go into war stuff? Did you want to talk about? I mean, I have a bunch of stuff written down, but what's on your mind that you feel like you need to valve off? You need to get out.
Well, one of the things that I want to talk, I got two things, and we'll go to your things. But one of the things that I look back on, and we talked about, and I remember the first conversation we had on Kevin's Law before anybody talked about it. And I wish somehow, we had a staff of 455 people that could pull the clip up and tell us. But you will probably remember when I first came in here, when we started, and I go, hey, there's a train coming and it's called inflation. Remember when I talked about way before it happened?
We got that Econ 101 class from
and
Professor Hazlett. I remember.
I put it on the board. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. We were talking about it about a year before it came to realization. Mm-hmm. And how it was going to impact us. I never thought it would impact us as much as it has.
So it was worse than you imagined.
It was worse than I imagined. Remember when I brought in the 100? I brought the $1 trillion bill? Remember from Zimbabwe?
Yes, I still have that.
Yeah, remember we talking about hyperinflation?
How much is that worth? Like 4 cents?
It's like nothing. but I mean, the inflation took off. The other thing that was. Taking shots at Bubba. Yeah, I am taking shots at Bubba always. That's and someone Oscar said that. I'm going to flip back to at the pumpkin party. Someone came up and they go, you know why we love when you're on Bubba? Because you are the only one who gives them a hard time. I'm like, I don't know about that, but that is the. Sometimes it's too easy to do that, right?
Yes,
it is too easy.
Mm-hmm.
But on the inflationary standpoint, what I want to chat about is we were talking about, how low interest rates were in COVID and just post COVID. Just remember, I mean, we were at 2% on home equity lines of credit and on 30-year mortgages. And one of the things we're talking about is hyperinflation in 2024. I don't know if we're going to get to hyperinflation. I don't know if it's going to get worse or better. I do know it was worse than I thought it was going to be.
At what point does it become hyperinflation?
There is a
critical data point.
There's a number, and I forget the number.
Okay.
But where it tells you exactly
the threshold
of when we call it hyperinflation.
Gotcha.
Just like when you have a ultra net worth individual, that number is 30 million. Once you have assets of 30 million or more, you're now ultra high worth individual. So it's defined by a number.
Okay.
Hyperinflation.
Obese, morbidly obese.
Exactly.
Got it.
A percentage.
Now I get it.
But there is actually there's actually a number that gets into hyperinflation, and I forget the number, but we're not at hyperinflation yet. But we're at the point where the average person, and you feel it. You go out and get have a Friday night, get pizza, and go to a movie, or we don't go to a movie, but it's
we
like
have coupons for that, Kevin. But yeah, go ahead.
But it's like $100.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's insane. It's just insane. And I always ask the question, how do people do it? Because it's become increasingly impossible. One of the things that I it will still encourage people to do, no matter how you need to get there, is in order to somehow get out on the other side of this, is that it is to have assets that are going to help insulate you from the hyperinflation that will be inflated along with the monetary inflation that's happening. What do you mean by that is?
Like planes and strippers and...
Which is horrible. No, I'm talking...
Oh, no, not that.
Not that.
Because that's what Bubba invested in.
God.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Sorry about this.
But you understand, Dan should have probably done a probe of his ears because he had the thickest earwax at the time because he couldn't hear anything that anybody said to him, including myself. And I'll keep telling that story again. But I mean, you couldn't convince him otherwise.
Right.
You couldn't convince him otherwise. Very much so. And I say this lovingly, and of course I'd say this if he was in the room, like an NFL player. You know what I mean? When you talk to someone in the NFL, they instantly think that they're going to be in the NFL for 30 years. They think they're going to make $5.2 million a year, or whatever it's going to be for the next 30 years. They thank you for the definition of hyperinflation. But he lived by that, thinking it was going to be forever. And that's always the problem for a lot of folks, is they think it's going to be, you're going to have whatever your income is forever and ever, and that it doesn't exist like that.
Right.
And you got to find to do some stuff. But my point is, back on the inflation, is that when you're in this environment, the only way you protect yourself, and I say yourself, the average person, is having and holding assets that are going to climb with that inflation. So at least you have the individual hedge, and that's going to be property. It's going to be certain stocks. I still believe it's cryptocurrency. I'll talk more about that in a second. Something that's going to allow you to have something that when everything gets inflated, it gets inflated at the same time. So when you get out the other side, you have something that you possess that also you get the benefit of the inflation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it moved with the market. You didn't lose money on the deal because the value of the dollar dropped.
That's correct. You had something that kept you afloat.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is the average American who is, paying their rent, paying their mortgage, paying their car payment, doing whatever they are, is just trying to keep up. And wages do not accelerate at the same level of inflation.
Right.
So they're getting beat up by the difference.
Yes. The cost of living is increasing faster than their wages are.
And whatever assets they have, you can't sell them. You don't have enough to sell fast enough to keep up with that chasm in between.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and that's where we are. That's why, the people that have assets, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's things that are going to increase in value, not values that, no, we don't need to cash out your bank accounts, but these are things that, you look at the beginning of this year, if you would have put $1,000 under your mattress January 1, that $1,000 is worth whatever, $878 buying power, today.
Mm-hmm.
So, having cash in and of itself is not helping you. And it goes back to what I was saying before, back when we were in the beginning of the inflationary period, is anybody you could to refinance your mortgage, anybody who buy a house, who wasn't on the fence and buying a house, you were in a position where you could buy a house on an owner-occupied for somewhere between 2 and 3% mortgage rate, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at almost 8%, which, prevents people from buying houses, right?
Sure.
You can't afford the same thing.
Mm-mm.
So, I think we'll get some sort of, as we approach the presidential election next fall, I think artificially they're going to work to try to push and tamp down interest rates. So I'm going to tell you, if you're on the fence about buying a house, probably about a year from August, a year from July, or this coming July or August rather, should be a good time to buy a house if you've been saving, because I think artificially they're going to push down interest rates back to the 5s. Does that make sense?
I think Biden will win again. I know that came out of left field, but
no, I think that ultimately, I don't want to be some strange conspiracy theorist.
Please, do you know what you're talking to?
I know.
Get out the tinfoil hat immediately.
I think it will be. I think that ultimately Trump won't be the nominee.
Will not
be the nominee.
And who do you think will?
Well, DeSantis has been a target of Shoegate. which
yes.
now
He
people
may not be as tall as he claims. Is that what you're saying?
the funny thing is people don't. Now I understand because I've been in that world. All those stories and a lot of those Instagram people and the TikTokers that have talked about that has been an effort by Trump world to do it. Many of these
you think or you know?
Oh, I know. These
Okay.
people have been paid to write articles about it. They've been paid to do videos of that. This is how it works.
Okay.
So this whole Shoegate, now some of that was a life on its own because people got on the train, but that was pushed. And if you look historically on the heights of U.S. presidents, if you're over 6 feet, you're judged to be a better leader. I mean, all these things line in. And you look at Michael Dukakis. Remember that?
No. Sorry.
You don't remember that. Michael Dukakis, who lost, I think it was against Bush, right? He was a short guy, and he won.
Bush won or two?
Yeah, Bush won, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But my point is, he wants to be perceived as a leader. Obviously, some issues about his height, whether it's true or not, I don't care really. Other than it's become a campaign issue that's taken on a life on its own, where he's trying to get out his, what he sees as his vision for the U.S., and it's interrupted with, so how tall are you really? And if you're explaining, you're not campaigning. And that's been a real problem. So I would have initially thought that DeSantis would have given Trump a run for his money because I thought initially I thought that, and it looks like that's going nowhere. Initially, I thought that Tim Scott could have came out and probably been a player in the field, and he's not. He's not connected. Nikki Haley has connected, and I think as you see some of these folks get out of it, we saw Pence get out. You've got the other Asa Hutchinson's getting out.
Vivek is still in it.
Vivek's in it. He just made an 8-figure buy. So he spent in Iowa and New Hampshire, he spent between those two states almost $12 million,
okay,
I think.
And it's his own money. He's like, at least he claims that he's self-funded, right?
He's self-funding a lot of it, yes.
Okay.
So he's put a lot of money in there. So I think if you're looking at Vivek, he's not playing for this cycle. He's playing for next cycle.
Sure, but he's getting his name out there.
Yes, he is.
And he's super young. He's only 38, I think.
He's Kennedy's. I mean, this is a Kennedy-esque sort of a campaign.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think he's connecting a lot with his age group.
I think he is too. People like what he's saying. He's making a lot of sense, especially when he's infiltrating the breakfast clubs of the world.
Yes. But I mean, he is doing, and I can understand it from being in his position. He's playing for 4 years from now.
Sure, but I didn't know who he was before. A few months ago.
And he claimed that he would do better than DeSantis back before DeSantis got in the race, even before he got in the race. And he said if he got in the race, DeSantis wouldn't. So
he's better on the mic for sure.
Yeah.
DeSantis is pretty bad when it comes to debates or speeches, or unless he's playing to his crowd,
Yes.
where I think Vivek has a bit more finesse behind the mic. He looks more comfortable, at least.
Well, remember what he's done for the past 4 years. I mean, he had a podcast. He's interviewed people. He's gone and take heat from people. I mean, this is like when Bubba takes and goes into a deposition, he literally understands, the ins and outs. When you've been deposed that many times, when you're on the mic every day,
right?
When you're used to talking to people in a hostile situation, you become really, really good,
yeah.
Right?
You get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and also you're able to weave in your responses, and it just you're just better at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that much like if you take the GOP guys that have podcasts every day, whoever you want to use, they become better and better. They've been in the hot seat, and they can respond to the hecklers.
Sure.
And they can explain themselves very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he has that gift. Now, is he going to be our nominee? No. Is he playing for 4 years from now? Yes. Maybe 8 years from now? Yes. Do some people not trust him? Yes. Has he switched a little bit? Yes. Is it a bit of a Manchurian candidate that he's putting these things together now? Probably. But that's politics.
That's the long play.
But it's also politics in 2023. I mean, that's how it works right now. I mean, you put together the sound bites and you take positions on things that primary voters are interested in, and that's
Sure.
that's what he's done.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that I don't see him going anywhere this year. Haley, I see, is the person that could be the nominee.
Okay. What do you think will happen with Trump?
Well,
how will that implode on itself?
The problem is that, and I'm gonna take a politics hat off. I'm gonna take that off for a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna put on a criminal justice hat.
All right.
You meaning that I'm gonna view it as someone who lives or has lived in the criminal justice world as a prosecutor, defense lawyer, sees what's happening. When you have, and I think he has 90 some odd counts of criminal charges against him.
Mm-hmm.
So let's break down a little bit where they are and what's happening. So you've got state court cases in Georgia, okay, criminal. So that's the Fannie Willis cases out of Georgia.
That's where he blew in the call saying find the vote, steal.
Yeah, but those are state court Georgia RICO cases.
Okay.
And I want to say state court and federal because there's a big difference.
Sure.
And I'll explain that in a second. So we've got state court cases in Georgia. You got state court cases in New York. Okay.
For business fraud or
Well, no, that's the civil case.
Oh, okay.
Then there's also the criminal case in New York.
Okay.
So criminal case in New York, criminal case Georgia. Then you have federal case, which is currently in Fort Lauderdale.
That's the Mar-a-Lago documents?
Mar-a-Lago. And
Okay.
then federal case D.C.
Which is the January 6th stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've got
And then the rape deal, was
that's a civil case in New York that's coming afterwards. We
Okay.
had rape 1, we've got rape 2, defamation.
Right. What was the criminal in New York? What was that one? Surrounding.
I'm going to come back to that because
Okay.
I can't, because I'm thinking.
Oh, there's just so many, Kevin.
But right now we've got the current case, which is the overstate of wealth in New York.
Okay.
That's the trial that's taking place currently.
Right.
That where there's no criminal culpability there, it can only be a civil fine, and that could potentially, the judge could order him to liquidate assets in New York, prevent him from operating a business in New York, or fine him. If I had to guess, that case will end up with a fine somewhere between 30 and 200 million.
Dang. Okay.
A fine. Now, the problem with that is if you took, and there's a longstanding theory in the FBI, which is if you look at anybody's life under a microscope, you can create felony charges.
Right.
I don't care who you are. So there's an argument you should not be bringing charges against somebody just because you have that time. And in his case, when you fill out an application for a mortgage, you can be charged if you overstate your assets, their value, or you understate it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you go, and the biggest time, and no one complains until you stop making your payments, typically. You know what I mean? If you stop making your payments, like, wait a minute, you lied on your
as long as everyone
application.
has their money, they're happy.
So, I mean, I think that Trump was in a Hobson's choice in New York where he couldn't, no matter what he said, and he had some caveats when he got these loans that said, listen, don't rely on these numbers. These are what I think they are, but you need to do your own due diligence. Don't rely on what I'm telling you.
Right.
And which was good. And he was a good business person because no matter who you are, you're going to be put in that situation where you might be in that trap. And I don't think any of us, I mean, every application I filled out, I mean, if I say what the value of a property is, well, okay, am I using Zillow's value? Am I using Realtor.com value?
Mm-hmm.
Am I using the tax assessor? Because they're different. But you start adding those numbers together, you add the number of properties, the more properties you own, the bigger that chasm. So I might be off by, $1 million or $2 million, where he could be off by $100 million.
Sure.
So the question is, does that become, is that a criminal charge? It's not. What does that mean? And I think this is a concerted effort to try to get Trump out of the political world, clearly, right?
Yes, but do you feel like the plan is backfiring because the more charges that are thrown at him, it seems like he's gaining more popularity and steam, and he keeps repeating, excuse me, the same trope, which I think is an effective one, which is like, hey, they're coming for you, and I'm standing in their way. I'm your guy. I'm the man of the people.
It's a great message. It's a great message.
And he keeps repeating that.
It's a great message.
It's firing me up, Kevin.
But you know,
firing me up.
Now, the other thing is he has got an unbelievable ability to connect with the average person.
Which is funny because he doesn't come from that stock. Like, comes from wealth. He comes from riches. He's an affluent guy, was, I think, born into like an affluent family. I know he took like the million and turned it into whatever, 4 billion or whatever he has. But it's funny that he's able to connect with, you know, the regular Joe kind of blue collar guy, because he has the gift of gab and he doesn't use the big words and he makes fun of people, and, you know, that's how he connects with the public.
You know, and if you look,
and he's so funny, and he's funny. He's funny.
Educationally, he did not follow that Ivy League, you know, road. And he doesn't come from that. And so that's not where he
But he does come from money, though, right?
But it's a difference.
Okay.
There's two differences. Coming from money is different than coming from the Ivy League education. I don't say indoctrination, but
Skull and Bones, sorry.
But it's skull, but there's but there's also some Ivy League speak, some corporate speak. I mean, if you listen to Dinesh, or you listen to anybody who's been educated that way, they speak at a different level than he speaks. And he speaks the way that the average person can connect with. And if you listen to Vivek, he speaks at a different level, whether it's good or bad, it's a different level than Trump speaks.
Right.
And, you know, Trump, you know, speaks probably as close to the average level of American than any other candidates.
But that connects.
And it does connect.
Yeah.
It does connect. And
but it's funny because he does that, but he also appears to be, and I think he is very competent.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't want a John or Joe. It's John Fetterman, right? Fetterman, where he's stroking out and he talks kind of like me, but I don't trust this guy. But Trump has the money and the property and the notoriety to back up, you know, his claim that he is the GOAT, that he's the best, that he is the GOP's best option.
Well, but the difference is that, you know, Trump is a Street Fighter, carnival barker presentation, and he lays it out where he can really connect with people.
Yes.
And he connects with people differently. So I would say on his ability to connect with crowds, you know, he has the it factor. And the closest person to the it factor, I think, other than him, would have been Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton could walk in a room and
he had charisma.
And as he would walk in, and when he met you and talked with you, you felt like you're the only person in the room.
Right.
He made you feel important.
Or on the plane.
Yeah, and he was very, very good. That was a gift. I think a natural gift.
Played the saxophone.
Yeah.
Smooth.
But he also was Ivy League educated.
Mm-hmm.
So he could speak at the Obama level, and the Obama level, Obama spoke at that same Ivy League-esque way, and that a lot of intellectuals love that. But Clinton had the same education, but spoke closer to Trump than Obama. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, in terms of just like jargon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but he was able to connect with people, even though he could speak, you know, at a different level on an Ivy League.
Yeah, he had range.
Yeah, he had range. Obama, you watch Obama would go into the deep South, and all of a sudden he would kind of slip into sort of a I don't want to say hood speak because that sounds negative, but
yeah,
but more of a colloquial, you know, local.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a nice word.
Inner city type dialect, an urban dialect, and an urban conversation.
Yeah,
and he was good that way, and he could do that. And you know, Hillary tried to do it and sound horrible when she tried to do it.
Yeah, not
she
good.
Would try, she couldn't pull it off.
No, she couldn't.
She couldn't pull it off.
Too robotic.
Yeah, but Clinton pulled it off.
Tried.
Obama, he was able to pull it off.
He is a great orator.
He is.
The MFer can give a speech, boy. You know, he's good.
But going back to where we are right now, I don't know. You know, the chasm's pretty big between Nikki. I'm gonna act like I know her. Nikki and Trump. And the question is this: as people get out of the race, as people fold their tent and say there's not a pathway, do those voters leave if you took the DeSantis folks, the Vivek folks, the Haley folks, the Pence people, all those people, if you put them together, would they coalesce against an anti-Trump candidate? And is that enough to get whoever that person is over the percentage to take those cases? And to take those voters.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Trump is too much of a magnet and a name, and he's coming back with a vengeance. It seems, in terms of popularity, because there was a while where he was like going on and on about the election. And you're like, enough.
Yeah,
but then when he just kept pummeled with this charge and that charge and this charge and that charge, and he started saying those things, bringing him back, like I mentioned before, hey, they're coming for you, and I'm standing in their way. So
that's a fantastic message.
I'm just like, that got me fired up, and I feel like he's had this resurgence of support where people they're ready for Trump Part 2 now. I'm kind of one of them.
The only question is, if you looked at it right now, you would say there is no way that Trump won't be the nominee, because you would say it's just the chasm's too much.
It's like
right?
60 points. Yeah.
Yeah. You say, the only thought, and I'm putting my criminal justice hat, is what effect if we have a trial that goes public, and what effect will that change? Because there's a certain part of the Trump support that won't be changed because they're diehard Trumpers.
Right.
Not going to change no matter what. The question is there enough percentage in that group that will be affected when some of the evidence comes out, assuming that it's damning? And of course, I don't know what the evidence is going to show, but is it enough to change some people's hearts and minds? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think so.
Then that, and Bubba, our mom, I think that Haley, at this point, Nikki Haley makes the most sense to be there as opposed to the polar opposite of Trump as another person that could win. The other problem is, and I'm not going to sound negative, but let's look at the numbers. The way that Trump got elected was not in 2016 was not so much because people loved him. It was a hatred of Hillary.
You think it was like the Biden effect of 2020?
It was the Biden
where people
effect.
Came out to vote against Hillary?
Yes. People voted against Hillary. People hated Hillary. It wasn't now I'm talking about 2016 now. In 2016, it wasn't a love for Trump. It was a hatred of Hillary. And remember, elections are won by the independents, presidential elections, not by the Republicans, not by the Democrats. It's that middle slice of people, about 11 or 14%. Where are they going to go? And the question is, are those folks going to align with the Democrat or Republican? Are they going to be? But we have a unique position where there are people that dislike Biden, right? A lot of people dislike Biden, but
they dislike Trump more.
Yes. I think it's a. I mean, the problem is even within the Democratic Party, they dislike Biden, and I would have thought that there would have been someone that would have come up and knocked Biden off of his perch, because I think it's a bad optics.
It's got to be like a sandbag.
Yeah, it's a bad optics.
Set of stairs.
Yeah, it's bad I mean, if the Democrats would have had anybody but Biden come up, okay, regardless of who they wanted to pick, I don't care who they want to pick. They pick what's his face out of California, Newsom. I mean, if they would have gone with Newsom and Biden could have gone in the sunset, then I think it would have been a slam dunk for the Democrats, right?
Right.
It's not even close. For the Republicans, the danger of Trump, the danger for the Republican Party is, what do the independents feel, and are people to come out and vote against him because they dislike him? I think... I
would say the independent, again, I don't know them, and I'm just making speculations pretty much out of my ass here, but I feel like the independents are people who are free thinkers, and they would align more so with Trump than so the establishment.
And I believe with Snookslayers that I agreed that even the Democrats think he's too old. And I think that these stories...
Biden, you mean?
Biden, yeah. So I think that they are looking for anybody. The question is, I don't know, I'll use Heather. I don't know with independents because I don't have their pulse. The question is, do the mounting criminal charges at some point give some people pause to say, how can someone be effective if they've got all these criminal charges hanging over his head.
Now,
So far, I'll say this: Trump has been like the Teflon Don, right?
I mean, depending who you ask, I suppose.
Well, no. How about I just ask the polls?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, he's been a Teflon Don, meaning that everything that he said
within his own party,
it's had no effect on him.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's very frustrating for a lot of people because everybody thinks, well, this time, grab him in the crotch is going to end his. No, it didn't.
I thought that was the nail in the coffin.
It wasn't. And people thought the criminal indictment would be it. It hasn't. We thought the mugshot would be. It hasn't. All these things that you thought would make a difference haven't. And contrary to historical political insight, it's gone the other way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Which I think is really
giving him momentum in life.
Which is, I think, surprising to a lot of people. And
now, if he were to become like the nominee for the GOP and then just say become the president, what happens to all these charges? They just evaporate?
So let's break those down. In the criminal state cases, so Georgia and New York,
okay,
the president cannot pardon a person for the criminal charges in Georgia or New York.
He can't pardon himself. You're saying
cannot. Correct. I think that so that's a problem. So if he is convicted in Georgia, a president cannot pardon himself, or a Republican president cannot pardon Trump for convictions in Georgia. The way that Georgia is currently set up, the way it would work is that you have to wait 5 years post-conviction. It goes to a board, and in order to get those charges pardoned, dismissed forever, then what you would do is you would have to have a public allocution, which means you come forward and say that you did all these charges, you admitted to your wrongdoing, and then you get pardoned. So if he gets convicted of the Georgia cases, a Republican president, including himself, and we got to get to whether or not a Republican president can pardon themselves, because that's a different issue. He can never pardon himself from the Georgia convictions if he was convicted in Georgia. Make sense?
Yeah. So he would be wrapped up in legal BS while he was serving as president if he won?
Well, the question becomes, so now we've got down to a stopwatch.
Yeah.
Which of these trials will come to a conclusion prior to the swearing in January? So you've got my prediction is the Mar-a-Lago cases will not begin prior to the next swearing in for president. So I think that judge down there will keep that case from beginning prior to January 2025.
Okay.
Okay. The Washington, D.C. cases, which I think are not as strong, are weak, I think. Weaker.
Weak sauce?
I think it is. That trial will commence prior to January of 2025.
Okay.
The Georgia cases on the RICO, remember those RICO cases in Georgia typically take a year?
Okay.
Those, I think, will try to begin prior to 2025. And I think the New York criminal cases can't get there between. So at the best, 2 cases get tried criminally. We're in the middle of civil case in New York, which get finished. Obviously, we're in it right now. They'll try defamation number 2 because he doesn't have to be present for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think we're going to get. So I think it's going to be difficult. The question is, if he gets convicted in Georgia, they'll file a superseded bond. He would not be incarcerated. The New York case, or excuse me, the D.C. cases, I think he has some defenses. I think is it Judge Chutrin? I can't pronounce her name. I think that case will commence. I think it's in March 3rd is what it's supposed to begin right now, right? March 7th?
I honestly have not been paying attention to much Trump stuff. I've been kind of, my attention's been more so in the Middle East, which I do want to get to that after.
So the question becomes, will things change between now and the Republican nominee? I think yes. Will there be enough traction if you're a Haley fan for these criminal cases to make a difference. I would have thought it would have, but right now, the contrary that, he raised money off of his mugshot.
That was epic.
It's the exact opposite. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think you never bet against Trump because he's had the ability to pull himself up when other would have killed the normal candidate.
Yeah.
He
refuses to give up.
Look at Gary Hart. Remember that?
No.
One photo on the. He had one photo. I think it was on a fishing boat called Monkey Business.
Okay.
With a girl that wasn't his wife sitting in his lap, and it ended his campaign.
When was this, and what was he running for?
Was it president? Was it 84 or 80? Look back. Anybody in the chat can tell me.
Sorry, Kevin.
But Gary Hart. Look at Gary Hart. Monkey Business. There's a photo, and that changed everything. But now it's like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that's like for Trump, he'd say that's a Tuesday morning, and it hasn't affected anything.
If you were able to, who do you think is the best candidate for the GOP as it stands right now? I know over the course of the next year and some change, things will reveal itself. But we're actually probably just about a year, right, to the date of Election Day next year.
We are.
Who do you like? Who would you like to see be the front runner for the GOP party?
Well, the answer is I want whoever's going to win.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because here's the problem. If Republicans screw it up and put forth a candidate that can't win, then we've shot ourselves in the foot.
Well, let's just say whoever we select is going to become the president.
Right.
Who do you think is the most qualified, or would you feel the most comfortable, level-headed maybe? Who would you like to see in there?
Well, I'm a big Trump fan because I like his policies.
Okay.
I mean, from a policy standpoint, his Middle East policies were spot
the
on.
Abraham Accords, I mean,
right. I mean, the problem,
legendary, and almost no one talks about it, obviously. No one wants to give him credit for that, but almost normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Thus, hopefully, I mean, obviously not now, but, leading to peace in the Middle East between the only Jewish nation in the world and the largest, Muslim and most powerful Muslim country in the Middle East. And if we could normalize those relations, then, things were looking good. But obviously, you throw Iran in there and they're trying to mix things up by firing up Hamas and causing all this conflict. I think that there was a purpose to the timing of the October 7th attacks in Israel.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
And you can blame some of the folks in Congress for that, because by creating chaos, you created a vacuum, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
But here's also, if you ask who I want it to be.
Yeah.
Remember, I come over a different lens, so now I got to put my dad hat on, and my answer is I want whoever is going to keep us out of World War III and keep us out of conflict.
Yeah.
I want 5 years, or at least maybe 12 years, where we're not going to be put in a position to send our young men and women into harm's way. So I don't want to get involved in conflicts where my kids could go to, especially if it's dumb and stupid. It makes no sense. And it's done for political motivation.
Have you noticed a switch, Kevin, between the Democrat and Republican Party, where it seems now the Republicans have taken more of an isolationist approach? They don't want to get involved in conflict. They're not really the war-hungry party that, I think when I think of, Bush II, Iraq, Afghanistan, all that sort of stuff. Now it seems to be kind of reverse, where they're more of the peaceful party, and it seems like the Democrats are the ones that are hungry to get into at least Ukraine, let's say. Ukraine and maybe not Israel, but they want to just fund both sides, I guess. Doesn't really make any sense. Have you noticed that change, that it seems like the left seems to be wanting to be more of the Team America World Police? We need to help everybody, let all the migrants in, let's get involved in Ukraine, let's piss off Russia some more. Have you noticed that kind of switch?
So if you look historically at the parties, and you look back to Barry Goldwater and come forward, we have typically seen the Republicans were seen as hawks and Democrats as doves.
Right.
That well, barring Vietnam War too, which was a Democratic push, but I think that you would see that we have been more Bush II, but of course you look at Bush II, regardless of what you think. I mean, you can't have that. You can't have 9/11 on your soil without some response. So the question is, was it the right response? Was the correct response? What's the right thing? Afghanistan was a losing war. No one goes to Afghanistan and wins ever, right? That was it. You never go to Afghanistan, right?
No.
Ever. I mean, you know,
no, and if you do,
the Russians were destroyed there,
you
right?
give money to the Mujahideen that turns into the Taliban, and then your new enemy.
And you raise a whole another generation of people that hate the U.S. So
and the Taliban, by the way, had nothing to do with 9/11.
Right. Of course not.
Yeah.
But then that's but also Americans were upset and they wanted us to go punch someone in the nose.
Right, but then we went into Iraq.
But
in addition to Afghanistan,
the question is, what do you do that? How do you do that? It was that, and a lot of people would argue that part of the reason we did that is to fund our industries that made money through war, right?
Yes.
Some have said that it helps the economy.
Yes, it sure does.
A lot of those things are there and present, so people make that argument. But I think that you're exactly right. More Republicans have becoming more America firsters. And I don't.
But America First looks different now than it did before.
It does.
Yeah.
And I don't think people should see that as a negative thing, right?
No.
I think
I don't understand how not everyone rallies behind this. Why wouldn't you want to put your own country first? That's what every country should be doing, is putting their own interests first.
What I don't understand
including Rob Wagner, excuse me, $20. Thank you so much. They said they miss us.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's hard to, you get, what was it, you used to call it chat cancer? You're trying to answer both at the same time. But
yeah.
But I think the answer is Democrats are against, or people in the U.S. are against that statement because they see that somehow as a racist term when it's not. I don't know how you could not argue against take care of Americans first. I argued, which makes sense, first of all, until we take care of our vets first,
Amen.
Above all, then we've really screwed up as a society.
Speaking of things that weren't racist that somehow are, I feel like even something as benign as the American flag on display has somehow turned into like a microaggression of it. Even when I was in college, which I mean was kind of long ago, but not that long ago. I mean, it didn't matter if you were Democrat or Republican, left, right. Like everybody was waving the American flag on 4th of July. We loved our country, even if we're like, I think we should go this way or that way. But we all seem to rally behind being American.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like that anymore. Now it seems like, if you have the American flag, that's somehow indicative of like how you won't be having the gay pride flag or the blue, your blue liner or whatever. It seems to be more politically motivated than just having pride in being an American citizen. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. I mean, we need to take care of, again, veterans first,
who we send to war to fight the battles of this country, and then they come back and are ignored. It's disgusting, but we'll fully pay for and give subsidized housing to people who are infiltrating our southern border, and maybe northern, but mostly southern border. Really disturbing stuff. And as an immigrant, if I may, no one is more pissed off about this than immigrants who come to this country legally through legal channels, because it is just such a slap in the face to the people that actually waited in line. For sure.
Veterans first, Americans first.
Yes.
Right? Americans first. We need to close our borders until we can get a handle on making sure. I don't understand this. This just defies logic. Until we get to a level that our veterans get the appropriate health care, mental health care, the ability to earn a living or live, not in poverty and not on our streets, until that's accomplished, I don't know why we would ever think about trying to support people coming into our country.
And then getting involved in other wars.
In other wars. Now, that being said,
yeah,
we absolutely also need to support our allies. And Israel is our ally. And we need to stand steadfast with Israel for many, many reasons. First and foremost, from a strategic standpoint, is they are our partner in that region, and we don't have a stronger partner or ally more than Israel.
A democracy. I mean, Israel, although in the Middle East, is considered part of the West.
But they stand for everything that we believe in.
Yes.
Plus, how many families have relatives that are tied directly to Israel?
I mean,
it's amazing. But I'm saying they are our strategic partner. forget about the moral obligation, because I think we have a moral obligation, of course, but I'm saying from a practical standpoint of our country, from a strategic defense standpoint, they are our ally, and we need to stand with them no matter what. It's absurd. I don't understand, and what I don't understand too is that how is it that the Democratic Party, which many Democrats, by the way, are Jewish, right?
Yes.
I don't understand how people within the Democratic Party who have come out publicly pro-Hamas, right?
I would say they under the guise of Free Palestine.
Yeah, but
they're not going to say, "Hey, I'm pro-Hamas," but they go, "Well, I'm pro-Free Palestine."
But that's
insinuating
that's a chicken crap
that
way
it
trying
was
to get
somehow
that done.
deserved.
Come on, that's absurd.
Yeah,
right?
But I did actually even wrote this down. I did want to discuss with you the fracturing of the left over this, because it's been really interesting to see. Because, like you said, Kevin, a lot of people who are very left and very liberal also are Jewish. And it seems like there has been a split now. I pay attention to Hollywood in the sense that those are the people that are calling the shots and people who they report. You hear Amy Schumer, who's typically very rah-rah left-wing, has now come out in support of Israel. She herself is Jewish, and a lot of people are upset with her. So it seems like there's this fracturing of the left over the case of Israel, because the right seems to be pretty steadfast, right? Israel is our ally. They're a democracy. They stand for the same values that we do. We support Israel. But on the left, it's different.
But it's a hard stop. I mean, first of all, if you're America first, or if you want best for America, then you also want the people who can also support that, which is our ally Israel.
Right.
So intellectually, look at this. Forget about emotion. Forget about religion. Put religion aside for a second, just for the sake of put religion aside.
Sure.
The answer is, okay, what's the best for U.S. worldwide? And the answer is to have allies to support our interests around the globe. And the answer is who in that area of the world is most aligned with our way of thinking, who will protect our interests. It's Israel, period, hard stopped end.
Right.
So the answer is, if you look at it from that standpoint, you'd say, okay, that makes sense. Then you get to the, democracy issue, right? Free election, for people making decisions. You go, okay, we line
freedom
there.
of speech,
all the things that we support,
that we enjoy in this country.
Not throwing women across, killing them.
Not throwing gays off roofs.
How can you be a liberal? Explain this to me. How can you be a liberal and not support and not be against all the issues in the Middle East?
How can you be a feminist and support a group that raped and pillaged women?
You just can't.
You can, though. And I watched actually a video on this Israeli guy, because I, too, Kevin, was very perplexed by how is this not obvious to everyone that you can't, the people with the blue hair that are non-binary. I'm like, okay, go to Gaza and be non-binary. Find out what happens to you. It's not going to be anything good. And the conclusion that I came to, but that this guy was talking about, basically just said that they both hate Western democracy and Western values. The left, because of, Marxism, it's a capitalist nation, whatever. And then obviously the Muslims, many of those nations are autocracies, theocracies, where people don't have freedom of speech. So it's this weird sort of combination where the extremes actually kind of loop back around together, because they both hate democracy and Western ideals.
So here's
colonialism.
But listen, how do we get to where the liberals have taken those positions and feel they can take those positions, which is anti-flag, supporting ideology, which is inconsistent with the way they see the world, as you pointed out? My argument is that we have had it too easy in the U.S., and good times create weak people. You
could say weak men. Weak men equals leads to hard times. Hard times leads to strong men. Strong men equals to leads to good times. Yes, I've seen that flow chart before.
But we're in it right now.
Yes,
we are in the middle of the great times have created weak men, and we are in the middle of that weakness, because when was the last time, and take 9/11 out of it, that we had conflict on our own soil?
Pearl Harbor. Civil War?
Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, was Hawaii part of America?
It was.
I know it was a base.
It was.
All right. Fair enough.
But I understand Sinclair infiltrated a long time ago. But I'm talking about actual conflict. I mean, people shooting people. You looked at
foreign agents,
foreign people, foreign. Not. We can talk about all the. We have terrorists here, but I'm talking about people that are on our soil fighting. House to house. Let's use Ukraine as an example.
Yes.
And even in Ukraine, and it's very interesting. I think I talked about on a Bubba show. I sat down. Because I get privy to a lot of different conversations being in my world. I sit down and listen to the latest intel that's public, it's not secret, about how we are analyzing the Russian-Ukraine war and what we're learning from that. And we're learning that Ukrainians who may have been on the bubble, because remember, a percentage of Ukrainians saw themselves as Russian.
Kevin, there was a referendum in the Donbass region, and
yes.
I think there was another one.
Yes.
There was a referendum in 2014 where 89% of the people in that region voted to secede from Ukraine because they did not identify ethnically with the rest of the country. So they either wanted to become part of Russia or they wanted to just be their own thing, but they did not identify. I think it's something along the lines of 20% of Ukrainians identify as ethnically Russian. So people tend not to mention that, but, that's what it is.
So what we've seen now, though, is there's a bit of shift there. And that is as the Russian troops came in to Ukraine, they're talking about what they've seen in Ukraine is similar to the Vietnam War in how the Vietnamese got involved.
Viet Cong.
To fight against the Americans. They might be friendly during the day, but at night, remember, they were out there booby trapping and setting this, that, and the other.
Guerrilla warfare.
But what's happening right now is that in Ukraine, they're using the assets available in 2023 to be, freedom fighters for Ukraine within Ukraine, and they're relying on WhatsApp and Amazon. And I say that because the communication is they're communicating with each other using WhatsApp and Amazon, because they are ordering drones for a couple $100 delivered to Ukraine. They're arming them with grenades and they're dropping them on Russian tanks.
Right.
So you've got, similar to the way the Afghanis were within Afghanistan, fighting against whether it's Russians or U.S., using whatever tools they had.
Yeah.
They're now using Amazon as a tool to deliver, and that's become this sort of rallying cry because Ukrainians are now becoming united and feeling more Ukrainian than Russian because of the Russian, the folks that they've come into their land.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that's made them smarter and harder. And they've had
they also have the support of the Western world where, they're getting fighter jets.
They're getting all sorts of stuff,
equipment, artillery,
stuff, yes.
money, funds.
Yes. And I think everybody thought that would be, a 2-week war? Right? At the beginning?
I'm trying to think back to February of 22. They thought Russia was just going to take over, right? That was what it was.
Right.
They didn't think that Ukraine really had a fighting chance, which they didn't.
They did. That's
correct.
They did. That's correct.
And who knows how much they're flubbing the numbers in terms of casualties. And it's like you really can't trust Russian news. And I don't know how much I trust our news even. So I really have no idea what is truly going on over there, especially now since the target of attention has shifted now to the Middle East. So it's like, is Ukraine even a thing? Like you barely hear about it in the news anymore.
Well, it's going to be a thing for a while.
Yeah, I understand.
We've got I don't know how many tanks sitting on the Polish border right now. And, my Duncan Pumpkins, that's where he's going to go. He's going to go to a country that is going to border Ukraine, whether it's Poland or somewhere else. And they're going to be doing, quote, exercises in the region. But that's where he's going to be. He's a tank commander. He's going to be in charge of 4 Abrams tanks. And that's where he'll probably go in about a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's where he'll go.
Obviously that scares you as a parent, and
well, of course. But
you also know that's the name of the game and the path that he chose.
Yes, and there's a lot of, that's the one side of it. The other side of it is, that he's getting incredible leadership skills. He's doing something that I think, and we've talked about before on Kevin's Law, that one of the things I think should happen in the U.S. and it can't happen is that there should be mandatory service in our armed forces. And I think Israel does it right. 3 years for guys and 2 years for women?
I think that's correct.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would create leadership. It would create responsibility. It would create self-worth. It would help with physical fitness. I mean,
interesting. Conscription.
Exactly. And then if you want to give a choice, they would either serve in one of our armed forces, which would include the Coast Guard, or it could be in the Peace Corps. I mean, something that's providing benefit to the country.
Interesting. Now, I'm getting a lot of heat in chat right now. Apparently, the fat pig is telling me, that's his name, not mine, to pick up the phone. So we'll take a call. Is that all right,
Sure,
Kevin?
that's fine. That's fine, of course.
All right. Sorry, but we're on a roll, fat pig. If that's who I'm talking to.
I didn't see who he is in here.
It's on YouTube.
Oh,
Hello.
sorry.
Hello. How are you? Hi, Anna. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Mark the Frog.
Yeah, it's Mark the Frog. Are you the fat pig on YouTube?
No, Mark the Frog Dashcam on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know. All right, go ahead.
So how's it going? I just wanted to say hi. It's been a while, Kevin.
Yes, Mark, how are you?
Good. I'm home for a couple of days, so it's always good to be home.
Oh, good. I know you're running stuff back and forth all around Canada.
Yeah, earlier in the show, they were talking about a woman Brian knew in Israel working on the farm.
What?
Remember, Anna?
That Brian knew?
Brian mentioned
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was from yesterday's show. Yep.
Yeah, I picked up fruits and vegetables at the airport in Montreal coming from Israel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they bring that all the way down to Nova Scotia.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm still doing an intermittent fasting, kind of. I've lost about 15 pounds.
Oh, that's
fantastic. That's great.
So Mark, did you have a load of lobsters last month?
All right, I'm going to have you talk. I'm going to run it back.
No, I've been eating mostly potatoes and fruits and vegetables lately.
Well, I wanted to channel my Tony Soprano to find out if you had a load of lobsters that a couple could fall off the back of the truck, because I think we would like to have a little lobster fest down here.
Yeah, right. Are you planning to have a show again?
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, I think I shared at the beginning, if you don't know if you heard or not, Mark, is that I think I made the promise a while back just to have one, and I didn't do it. So I apologize to those folks who did it. I know Rock wants to do it. I know Anna would like to do it. I've talked to a lot of folks I think would like it. I love doing it, whether people like it or not. I enjoy doing it because it gives me a chance to talk about things that I normally don't talk to other people with, and allows me to pontificate on things that may or may not make sense or have value or no value for a couple of hours, but I feel good after I do it. But I think that I think we're going to try to do it. As you know, I think prior to my political endeavor that I built a studio, which is really, really, really good. I think it'd be good for the show, and I think we can make that work. So I want to do it. I want to get with Anna. She lives, I think, closer to my studio than this studio. So I think we could probably put it together and make that work. So the answer is yes, we're going to do it. I got to figure out how it would work and when we would do it. So I think we're going to do it. I don't know if we'll make it 3 hours or whatever, but I think maybe, a 2-hour show would make sense. Anna, we think about 2 hours. Would that
sounds
work?
Perfect.
Would that work?
Yes, and I'm much closer to you now than to the BRN. So
I think if we can make it work. I just, before we were just on, I wasn't on 5 platforms. So, I can't tell you how we could do it, but I'm sure we could make the platforms work and figure it out. And thank you, Bubba, Mom. I appreciate it. I like doing it, but I'm not going to ask him if he has how much wheat he has, but but that's we'll try to make that work, Mark. Would that be helpful for you?
Yeah, as long as they put it on Bubba Army Radio and YouTube, I'm good.
Well, that's not my bailiwick, but I'm sure we can make it work for everybody.
There'll be a way for you to access the show.
So where are you planning to travel next, Kevin? Any plans?
Actually, I do get a chance. I'm looking into doing an Antarctica trip.
No way.
Yeah, I am. Way.
That's so cool.
What do you think about that?
I think that's super cool. I watched a horrible documentary about a lake under Antarctica. I wish I didn't watch that. But there's a lot of cool, interesting stuff going on in Antarctica. It seems like they're really utilizing that space in new and innovative and possibly dangerous ways.
So I looked into it, and Mark, the way it works is I would go down to Buenos Aires, stay down there, and then you take a plane from Buenos Aires to the southern part of Argentina, and then you can only go by boat, and that you go on a boat for about, I don't know, a couple weeks, and
A couple weeks?
yeah, and the boat I'm looking at.
Is this a cruise, Kevin? Are you going on a cruise to Antarctica?
Well, the only way to get the ship I'm looking at has 2 submarines on it, and then 8 Zodiacs, or excuse me, 24 Zodiacs.
What's a Zodiac?
Those are like the rubberized boats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Jonesy. He goes, just go to North Minnesota. You'll think you're in Antarctica. But I think it's supposed to be pretty cool. I've read a lot about it. Kind of got the weeds. I'm going up to, as you know, I got a place in South Carolina, but I'm going to go up there Saturday. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to go up there for 10 days. So I'm going to sit there and kind of figure out what we want to do.
Is it Asheville?
We're in Greenville.
Greenville.
So cool. We love it.
Yeah.
And that's on the the list. Or Bali's on my list.
Ooh.
Or the Maldives are on my list. But the problem is, I mean, the Maldives, I've read a lot about it on it, is that you sit there, and I love my wife, but I mean, she looking at me for a week, you know.
It seems to be pretty remote.
I mean, she's like, okay, I'm bored.
Do you snorkel? Do you
You can snorkel.
Do you can scuba?
You can do all that. You can do a little bit of fishing.
You know?
You're in those beautiful, cool huts that are over the water.
Yes.
But I mean, but then you kind of go, I mean, and I apologize as this, I'm not meaning to be snobby, but I'm like, I want to do more stuff and see more stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes. Catch a boat to Sri Lanka and check it out over there.
Well, Sri Lanka, I want to do that, and I also want to go to Singapore.
Singapore would be cool.
Yeah, and I'd like to do some fishing. See, Bali, you know, Heather, I thought it'd be good. Referee Fred, yeah, Firma's number 2 in the FBS Bowl, by the way. But so I don't know. The answer, Mark, is we're trying to plan something. And also, I want to go to base camp, you know, in Nepal. Mm-hmm. That's on my goal to do that. That's actually a pretty big deal to get to base camp. And it's supposed to be kind of gross, but I still want to. I want to do that. And
that's the base of like Everest.
Everest.
Okay, yeah, because I know it's in the Himalayas.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we want to go back to Africa and hike Kili. There's a couple ways to get up Kilimanjaro. That's supposed to be cool.
Is that Tanzania?
That's in Tanzania, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question,
Sarah,
Mark Frog?
There's a quick answer.
All right.
Next time you're in Montreal, let me know, Kevin. I can drive to Montreal. I'm only 45 minutes.
You guys can hang out.
Perfect. That would be worth it. We do a mobile show, remote show with Mark the Frog.
Beautiful. Thanks for calling in, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, the Fat Pig, for notifying me that someone was on the phone. I appreciate you. So back into wherever we left off, I think it was your son possibly going overseas to Poland, you said, right?
Yeah, Poland. He would go. He's going to go somewhere in that region, which is, you know, which would be great because we could go visit him over there because he'd have some time off. But, you know, I'm just very aware of that. My other son will go somewhere where we're involved too. But I just, you know, he's going to get very involved in things. So I'd prefer this thing to be, you know, less hot than
Of course.
Less hot than it is.
Are you surprised by anything that you're seeing in terms of the Israeli-Hamas conflict in the Middle East? Because, listen, Kevin, you know me. I'm not one to call victim or one to be like, I'm oppressed, because I certainly don't feel that way. And it really helps that I get to be all the things, Kevin. I get to be a woman, an immigrant, a Jewish person, an atheist. Like every box I can cross off and go, yeah, I don't feel oppressed. I feel great, actually.
Right,
I feel awesome. I am getting a little concerned, though, with the somewhat seemingly rise in anti-Semitic sentiments that seem to be whirling around us. And I have been trying to and here's the thing, not that I'm interested in giving people the benefit of the doubt, but again, I don't like putting myself in a situation where I feel like I'm a helpless victim. That I don't think is beneficial for everyone. So I've been trying to make a distinction between people who have come out who are, let's just say, anti-Israel and not immediately calling those people anti-Semitic. Because I think that there is a difference, at least I hope, and I know that there's a lot of conflation there, I suppose. But I want to, if someone comes out and says something critical of Israel, I'm not going to be the person to say that person hates Jews. Now, if I'm in Sydney, Australia, and there's a chant going on that says, gas the Jews, yeah, they probably don't like Jews too much. But I think you should be able to criticize a nation that has a government and a military and say, I don't approve of what this government and military is doing, and not immediately be accused of being a Jew hater. So, but I also am a little bit concerned when you see a lot of people ripping down pictures of Israeli hostages that are babies, like the youngest being 8 or 9 months old. I mean, come on. That's disgusting that you have no sympathy for an infant that no longer has his mother or her mother present, or a child or an elderly Holocaust survivor. I mean, I think that's disgusting. I think the thing that I found most surprising is you would think that someone who would be pro-Palestinian liberation, right? I can sympathize with that. And again, I also understand that I have a bias. I was raised Jewish, although a self-proclaimed atheist, but I was born in Israel. I have family friends in Israel. I have my parents lived there for 10 plus years. So I certainly have a connection to the land. So I try to, at the best of my ability, remove that bias and that lens. But it is a little bit concerning when you hear people who are claiming to be pro-Palestinian, and fine, I can understand sympathizing with that cause, but not coming out and condemning the October 7th attacks, I find to be a bit alarming. And it's not just one or two, it's a lot of people who are justifying the actions on October 7th.
So I've listened to those interviews.
You listening to a lot of Piers Morgan interviews? Because that's where I've been most of the time.
No, I've listened to like a smattering of interviews from different feeds and different interviewers. And there's, both British, because UK gets, they're really stuck on the appropriate response. Like that's their term. That's a British term. Like, what's the appropriate measured response to the attacks?
Right.
And that's, again, that's more of a UK thing than a US thing, because that's the term I use a lot. But I've listened to all these where you have a person who's pro-Palestine and then someone who's questioning them on that with what you've said, which is they're trying to frame the question to say, hey, listen, regardless of what you believe, can you agree to condemn the attack by Hamas on innocent women and children and grandparents?
Right. Like that needs to be the starting point, because if we can't agree on that, then the rest of the conversation seems to be futile.
And I've listened to it, and it gets into a circular argument, because the beginning would be, hey, listen, if we're going to have some common ground, if we're going to cut, and because ideologically you can say, well, I understand that you think you're concerned because they're occupying this space. You're odd because you think they took over this country. We understand the land squabble. We understand the religious differences.
The history.
We understand the thousands of years of history here.
Right.
But however, let's talk about the issue of this action on this date. Can we all agree that this was wrong? So as we start out the beginning of the conversation, you would agree, even though you have this position of whatever your pro-Palestine position is, you would condemn the actions by Hamas against this group on this date, right?
Right. You think.
As a beginning.
Yes.
I have not seen these people who have been able to acknowledge that, to say, listen, unless for the purpose of this conversation, let's go into say this. And we've said this before. During World War II, there were people, the Nazis were a small percentage of Germans. It wasn't all Germans.
Right.
And the question would be, hey, German, although you lived in Germany during World War II, would you denounce Nazis and their actions of killing 6 million Jews as a starting point of our conversation? Because we're going to presume that not all Germans were Nazis, therefore we would agree that you would condemn what the Nazis did in the atrocities against Jewish people and non-Jewish people across Europe, right?
Yeah, gays, gypsies.
Could you also then go into the Deep South and say, listen, we know you lived in Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement. We knew you weren't a member of the Klan. However, going forward, can we say that you would condemn the actions of the Klans against African Americans and the lynchings against, well, they're not only African Americans, against Jewish people too, by the way.
Sure.
Would you condemn that, right? Wouldn't that be the beginning conversation with any groups of people over the past 200 years, right? To find some common ground.
Right. A starting point.
A starting point to say, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
so we can find where we can move forward as two different perspectives. I've not seen an interviewee who's been able to intellectually get there in that conversation, and it's all been but, and then they want to talk about the atrocities against Palestinians. Does it make sense?
Yes.
And they start and say, well, I can't get there until you, interviewer, condemn Israel's attack.
Occupation.
Yes.
What they do, what I've seen a few people do now, which seems to be the tricky move of the day, is they go, can you define a terrorist? And then the interviewer will try to define a terrorist to the best of their ability. And then they're like, you just described the IDF.
Yes.
So that seems to where it gets circular, and you okay, but we're talking about the attacks on October 7th. Well, then you would have to admit, that's kind of the direction that all of most of the conversations I've seen have gone in that direction.
And I think in order to have validity in that world, to have that sort of conversation, I think you have to acknowledge the atrocities of the 7th and say that is fundamentally wrong, and I don't support it, and I condemn the actions those days. It was done, obviously, the way they filmed it and released it. They're very proud of it, right?
Yes, they weren't trying to hide anything. I mean, maybe you saw the same Ben Shapiro interview that I saw.
I didn't see it.
But he said, at least the Nazis, and then he stopped himself and he goes, this is something you'll never hear me say again. But he's like, at least the Nazis tried to hide it. He's like, the Hamas is like begging you to watch and believe them that they are the animals that they say they are. Like they're putting this on X, they're putting this on social media. They want you, begging you to take them seriously, that they are these dangerous, savage monsters. So they're not trying to hide anything.
Exact opposite.
Yeah.
They're trying to promote it.
Right.
How late do you go today?
As late as you want to go.
Can we go to 12? And I want to, because I got people I've got to get done. But
yes.
I want to talk just a little bit, and I'll talk when we get a chance more about it. But I want to talk a little bit about what the halving, which is going to come, I think, in March of this year.
Okay.
And the Bitcoin halving, and I just want people to do a little due diligence on this and what I think will happen and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And again, I feel bad, and I hope I don't give the impression. I'm not telling people to do something or not doing something. I'm just telling what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I'm not here to say you need to be an advocate to do it. And I'm not trying to give you financial advice, but I'm going to tell you what's happening and why it's happening and why it might make sense. So I spent a lot of time following, Michael Saylor, MicroStrategies, who I think at this point owns 1% of all the Bitcoin in the world. And they continue to buy Bitcoin. He sees it as a hedge of inflation. He sees that it will have adoption. He sees that it's going to go somewhere. And he continues to, and I think he spent $100 and some odd million buying Bitcoin at $34,000 a coin. So that's crazy talk, really, at that price. He believes that, and a lot of other people do, and I had the pleasure of meeting and talking at length with Kathy Woods. You know who she is?
No.
You need to find out who she is. She moved her company from New York to St. Pete.
Is she a billionaire?
She is a billionaire.
Okay, yes, you've mentioned her before.
Great lady. Got to
is she
talk.
like a venture capitalist or? She
has her own trading company, and Kathy Woods, check it out. You have to sigh before you speak a big like him. Yeah. But I'm just telling you, the halving's coming up, which means that in approximately March, the miners who mine Bitcoin get rewarded, and their reward will be half of what it is right now, which will mean that it will increase scarcity. And I think you will see the price of Bitcoin at a minimum 4x where it is right now. So we're about 35,000 a Bitcoin.
Right now it's 35?
I think it's 35.
I haven't looked in months, Kevin.
Well, not that you would, but if you've been holding it and not sold it and thought that when it went down a little bit that I let you down, and as I've always said before, it's a long play till 2025, and 2025 is now closer than it was 3 years ago.
Why is that the gold post?
Well, because I think you'll see the full effect of Bitcoin's 34.8 right now, because you'll get the benefit of the halving, which every halving we've had has caused a bull run in cryptocurrency. So I think that you're going to see a increase that will probably be at a crescendo about, call it, between April of 2024 and February of 2025. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you, and as I told everybody before, don't worry about the numbers, but if you're looking for an exit ramp, if you're looking for the time to say this is where we want to get out, it's going to be within that time period. Although I'll probably still keep, depends on where it goes. Because at some point I went to Etho Mining and lost 16,000. Jonesy, and I never got my mining set up, but I continue to buy. But I mean, someone on this show too, and someone remind me in chat, told everybody on Kevin's Law to buy Solana when it was $2, and I think it hit $40 this month. The prediction of Solana is $500. So I mean, I think that you'll see some things happening. I agree, when the ETF's on the horizon, it will shoot up. That's correct. But I still tell you that there's some value there. If you held on to it, still holding, that's where I think we're going to see some movement. And I think we won't see real movement until we get adoption, and it will be some adoption at some point. So I just wanted to interject that I was talking about 2025 and 2020. We're getting close to the real 2025, and I think that's when you're going to see the apex of the crypto market short term. I think it will go up from there, but people will still tell the stories that they know someone who knows someone who had a whole Bitcoin, and I think that will still be a big deal. That's all. That's it. Have you looked at? You bought a little bit, right?
Yeah,
a
little bit of Ethereum.
Did you sell it?
No, I didn't touch anything.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
I'm just letting it sit there, marinate a little bit.
I'll let it marinate on that.
Did you get a lot of backlash from people, Kevin? I feel like a lot of people came knocking on your door saying, "Hey, Kevin, it all crashed and it's all your fault because you gave me faulty advice."
Well, I think a lot of people said that. Of course, I will tell you this: when it crashed, I bought more. So I did. In
true Kevin Hazlett fashion,
I just bought more.
You're just a rebel like that.
Well, it's not if it's a rebel or not. I just bought more.
Just because you're like it's cheap, and I believe in the process. I believe in the concept of cryptocurrency.
And if you spend some time, and I want everybody to do their own research, if you look into it, you will see that a lot of institutions who were anti-crypto turned into crypto people. And they've bought silently. They've not advertised what they're doing. But this is something that at some point, people who hold cryptocurrency or hold real estate will say, wow, I'm glad I did it. And they'll look back at it and go, wow, I should have done that.
Do you think it's just an inevitability in terms of like how everything is going electric? You know, people love their gas hungry cars and all that, but eventually, if we look down the road, everything is moving in the electric direction. Do you think that it's the same thing? This is just, is the gold standard, and then went off the gold standard, then it's going like digital online stuff, and now the next iteration of currency is the crypto world. Do you think it's just an inevitability in terms of when it catches on, not if?
You know what's weird is that when you're in the moment, because a lot of people, and I'm going to answer that question, but when you're in a particular point in time, there are so many opportunities for you to get massively wealthy and financially independent.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know what they are. Like right as we sit here right now on this date, there's these unbelievable deals we made. We just don't know what those deals are. And we're trying to guess what they're going to be.
Right.
There was a time where we sat when people thought that Blockbuster would be around forever.
Sure. Because you can't imagine it not being how it is.
There will never be a world. And of course, I remember vividly with my kids going there on a Friday night to rent X amount of videos over the weekend that we were going to watch because
Be kind and rewind.
Because that's the way it will always be. We never imagined a world where Blockbuster would not be part of our life. Right?
Yes. You could send money through a phone? What do you mean?
I remember when travel agencies were in every strip mall and every strip center, and we thought we can't ever remember a world where we wouldn't use a travel agent for our travel, right?
Right.
And that remember that those travel agents had some screen and they could look into airplane flights that us normal peons,
The peasants
didn't have the ability to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really remember that. But yes, I can imagine.
Well, but I mean, that's the way we are. In that in the moment we didn't realize it. I remember, and I bought a property down on one of our beaches, a beachfront property, and the amount was a lot to me, and it seemed like at the time like it was the logical right choice to make based upon the data I had in my brain. But it seemed like a lot like I kept going, what's wrong with this deal? And the answer was nothing wrong with this deal. I was 100% right, and I should have gone more in. And that property 3X'd in 4 years.
Jesus.
Okay, 3X'd in 4 years.
And you bought it when?
In 2018. It 3X'd in 4 years.
That's crazy.
Now, so today, to answer your question, you look forward and there you will see the way the world's going. The question is, can you make some decisions based upon that, knowing the direction we're going, so it financially that affects your life
In a positive way.
In a positive way. Just like, and everybody heard these stories from a real estate standpoint. I remember when you could buy beachfront property or waterfront property in the Tampa Bay area for $250,000. Now those same properties are now selling for $2 million.
Right.
And it wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what does it mean right now? So the answer is, regardless of what you think about electric vehicles or gas vehicles, if you think that gas vehicles that are not self-driving will be the same position now as 20 years from now, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we always go the way of where it's affordable and where it makes sense in our life. Now, do I think that we're going to have self-driving cars? Absolutely. Do I think we'll have self-driving trucks? Absolutely. How fast it will happen? When it happens, it will happen what will feel to us as overnight, but will take in 20 years to get there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like we already kind of have self-driving cars, but, they're in beta. They are in beta. Now, that's why they keep malfunctioning. But the technology is like the concept of the technology is there. We're just trying to perfect it.
So if you look at Elon Musk, who's a smart guy,
sure is,
and what he's done, and he almost lost everything with Tesla, came close to being bankrupt, right?
Mm-hmm. I remember hearing those stories.
What he's doing right now is what he's trying to do by scaling with his vehicles, whether you like them or not, whether you're pro-electric or not. That's not my argument. My argument is he's creating a vehicle that will try to be superior to another vehicle at a price point that'll be more attractive than another vehicle.
Right.
And he's going to win the war based upon affordability and the good value of the vehicle, not because it's electric or gas.
Correct.
So he is going to punch in the nose Detroit based upon his product, the safety, the crash worthiness, the effectiveness of it, the efficiency of it, and more important, the price point.
Yes.
And my argument is that his product is going to be superior because he's going to deliver it. And my analogy is going to be the 50-inch flat screen TV, which, I remember spending almost $10,000 for one X amount of years ago, that I can go down to Best Buy and now buy it for $30.45, right? And it's at 10 times the value, right?
$30.
I'm joking. I'm saying that.
Yeah, much more affordable now.
Right. Now, I agree with the infrastructure. We're not of it, that we can't do it right now. But I'm not talking about infrastructure. I'm not talking about gas versus electric. I'm not talking about Big Brother being able to turn off your car. I'm not saying whether it's bad or good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying from a practical financial standpoint, Elon Musk is going to attack this and solve the problem with a superior product at a price point that's going to beat the Toyota Corolla. And that's how he's going to win the war. And that's how we're going to get there. Whether we want to go there or not, I think that's where you're going to.
happening.
People are going to go. That's where we're going to go there. And I agree with you, airtight pole. Where it's I don't think we're there. I don't think infrastructure is there. I agree with you, but I'm saying that's what he's doing. And I think he's going to put it in a chokehold, in a half Nelson, and try to get us there. If he does that, if he's able to produce those vehicles at scale, he will win the war. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's how I think we get there.
Should we end there? Is 12. I didn't know if you need to get going.
I do need to go.
Okay.
The other thing I want to leave you with, and we need to talk more about, is I want to, our next meeting, I want to get into the Peter Attia conversation.
Oh, yes.
I want to get in the Gary Breckett conversation. And I'm going to leave you something that's going to really bother a lot of people. And I understand why they're going to bother it, but I'm going to, if you're going to look at the forefront, you know, I've got an Oura ring. I'm tracking my sleep with this tremendous.
Oh, nice.
detail. I'm in
How's
the
that REM doing?
I'm going to share with you after.
I'm so excited.
I'm doing, but I'm going to say something that's going to bring a lot of people down. I'm not trying to be negative.
No, please do.
I'm not trying to be a disruptor, but I'm going to be a forecaster of the future, and you're going to see this happen. I'm going to tell you that there's going to be an attack by the informed, enlightened, and medical people with data that are going to tell you that alcohol is going to be the cigarettes of the 70s. You're going to see an attack on alcohol as having no value for health, and I think you're going to find some big names get behind it, and an anti-alcohol move that'll be similar to the way that people moved against cigarettes.
Interesting.
And I'm going to tell you that's coming. It's a bomb that's coming. You're going to see that, and a lot of people would talk about. I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm the fun sponge, but I'm going to tell you that you're going to see this anti-alcohol movement that's going to be starting at the ground floor, and you're going to see people, pioneers, who are giving real data on why we've been kind of given and sold on the okie doke for years.
Whoa.
There we go. We can be done. I'll leave it there. Mic drop. Over out.
I love that.
Okay. All right, Anna. Loved it.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. Oh, hold on. There it is. Just give formal goodbyes. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
All right, guys.
And we'll catch you on Monday. Alex Stein fight tomorrow. See you at the factory. Goodbye.